Well, we're back with Aristo, and it's 10 o'clock where I am, and I guess add,
5 o'clock.
huh?
5 o'clock where I am.
Oh, 5 o'clock. Yeah, add 7 hours.
Yep.
7 hours. So anyway, Aristo is going to talk today about the nature of the beast, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to share, and I hope you are as well. Aristo, please take it away.
Thank you, Ron. Good morning to you and good afternoon to me. So it's not that, but it's an interesting topic. And as usual, whatever I'm going to say comes from feedback that I get, just like Ron, maybe even from 5 minutes ago or yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever, and I let this accumulate. Um, what I want to say is that these videos are about empowerment. And empowerment is not a new age term. It's a lot of things, the new age, however you want to call it, or pop psychology, or the liberals, or the conservatives, or the matrix in general. They have taken terms like you see romantic comedies and people are just acting, and they spout out cliches to the point that people are sick of cliches. But these cliches, when you have heart, meaning, and love behind them, they actually establish a real depth in the relationship. They're real expressions. All of these cliches between couples and stuff that people go, oh, gag me, and whatever. However, they've been taken, they've been cheapened, they've been lessened, and I'm not going to throw them away. I believe they're beautiful things, but you have to take them, dust them off. Uh, it's like putting, shriveled up plants in water, and then they get new life in them. You have to give them the water. So take everything. Don't throw out the new age or the old age or the whatever age. Your world around you may be shriveled, may be insane, may be messed up, but it's full of wrinkled flowers, and you need to put them in the waters of your own life. But then you'll say, oh, what life? I'm messed up. I'm whatever. Well, yes. So I'd like to share some things that have helped me in my sense of empowerment, because empowerment is a sense. It's an established dynamic of your own being. It's not fucking putting gasoline in your tank. It's not being given money. It's not being other people telling you how great you are. It's not being popular. Empowerment is your own sense. So this is not, and then you see, the other day I was trying to explain this pattern I want to talk about today, and somebody answered, and it was a critical response, and I'm fine with that, but I didn't feel they were talking to me. It was like, well, I never said all these things. Who are you talking to? Well, this person was probably talking to all these other people that they never got to reply to, but they saw me and they projected. So that person, basically, I felt bad because it's like, well, my communication must be messed up. But I couldn't, even reply because there were no points of real contact. This person agrees with Ron, and I'm saying the same thing as Ron, and she disagrees with me, and sets off all kinds of arguments because of something unresolved within her. Saying that and it pains me because what I'm saying is not selfish. It's not some new age jargon. It's, it uses the same words because they've been hijacked. So I'm not going to go to the trouble to create new terminologies. And I'm not going to go to the trouble to say, oh, the new age is bad and this is good and whatever. What I want to do is say, look, take what I'm saying as a standalone dynamic. Empowerment means you're able to stand on your own 2 feet, even if you're bedridden, even if you're in pain. But it's not a democratic, across the board to the masses message. People are in pain. People are suffering. So I'm speaking to the ones that are not on death's doorstep. I'm speaking to the ones that can think and can move and are still avoiding cognitive dissonance, that are still avoiding the negativity, that are still avoiding the shadow, even as they claim they're embracing the shadow. I've noticed that whenever shadow talk comes in, either it gets marginalized or put into some category of resentment, or basically yes, 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 and nothing is being done. This is the most difficult challenge we face. If we can engage with a shadow, we can engage with the psychopaths. And it's not a direct one-to-one thing. It's an engagement. Our creativity will be able to move in a direction because right now we're blocking ourselves from solutions because we don't want to engage with shadows at all. So that being said, well, how? I'm engaging with the shadow. I'm feeling really bad. Well, being a victim of the shadow is not engaging. Okay, fighting the shadow is not engaging. That's another thing. All these people that say, oh, war is bad, warriorship is bad, and all of that. And then these other people that say, no, we got to fight. They're both right and they're both wrong. They're both mistaken because each has half of the puzzle. That's a paradox. The paradox is, like you said, taking two pieces of a puzzle and putting them together when they don't seem to fit normally. you know so what you do is you brush the dust and the dirt off. You know why they don't fit. In my honest opinion, they got dust and dirt. They are locked in isolation so much that they get rusty. So you got to sand out the edges. You got to sand out the boundaries. You have to engage with the differences and then fit them together because they form a more complete picture. So we don't have a word that's yes, warrior, but no war. you know we don't have a word of engaging with a shadow but not being a victim to it. Oh, it hurts. Of course it hurts, but the shadow is an incarnation of the pain. The shadow, the only reason it doesn't hurt is because it follows the path. If you can't beat it, join it. And so it throws the pain that would naturally consume it onto everything else. We need to stop the process. Because cancer cells are not aliens, as I said before. They are not invaders. They are a mutation, a probability, an adverse probability of an existing system. And so if God intervenes from the outside, then it's all over because then the structures of manifestation that are natural need to be compromised. They need to be proven wrong. And so many spiritualists say manifestation is wrong. Let's get out. Let's let it all collapse, which is what the shadow is saying. Which is why I have said many saints are actually feeding the shadow. People who are very good, very compassionate, but they are anti-manifestation in some way, even though they do not uh, fight against it. They are still saddened by it so much that they just want it to be over with and want a way out. So they are feeding the shadow. If you are looking for a way out, that's good. But if you are, if you can't find anything else to do, because everything's going to be cycled back, that's the whole point of metaphysical belief systems, is to not let you despair. If your spirituality, however, leads you into despair, then it's not spirituality. It's a program. Spirituality is not a drug and is not meant to give you false hope. It is meant to encourage your own ability to generate hope. That's where humans, as you said, Ron, differ from animals. Humans can generate a reality frame. They can generate a mindset that can then be created into the physical world. They can generate a heart set that can then influence the physical world. Maybe you say, well, I don't see it happening. Well, our hands are tied, so we can't do it with our hands. But they're trying to control our minds, which means our minds are threatening them. So maybe there is something to it. Maybe the matrix is on full blast trying to keep us from seeing it, from feeling it, from experiencing it. So what does this have to do with the nature of the beast? Well, let me add this other observation, because you said you got this thing about addiction. They found a new reason for addiction and all of this. And I agree with it. Addiction is an adaptation to suffering. But there's one thing I don't agree, because within there, and it's on the Huffington Post, so I was immediately suspicious a little bit. It said, well, the rats, they did the experiment with rats, and they said, when the rats had a better cage, they didn't need to be addicted. So automatically, oh, somebody's actually saying that all we need is a better cage, a better matrix. Think about that. And I think this is part of a general program that's saying, look, the bad cops are messed up. Nobody wants it. Here's a better plan. But it's still a cage. They have to tell you the truth in some way. They have to say, you need a savior, we're coming, but we're going to give you a better cage. We're not going to set you free. Humans can't be free. So you need to know that your power of choice, we were talking about that with Ram. Maybe there is no democracy, maybe there is no freedom, but maybe there is a metaphysical voting system that, unless you endorse that something does not have a high probability of manifesting in any enduring manner. So the guy that posts a blog in Saudi Arabia, he gets 1,000 lashes. So yeah, but they're planning to exterminate all of the Semites, including the Jews. They're planning to genocide them. They got their mercenaries killing off all the good people, and then they're going to kill off all the mercenaries on top of that. And this is a known operation, so they can afford to do old school stuff because they don't care about them. But the ones they do care about, that they're not exterminating overtly, that they're trying to mind control, because the older peoples, what's wrong with them? Well, in the older peoples, you have a higher instance of mysticism, not New Age, traditional mysticism. How many Sufis are in Arabia? I mean, in the whole Muslim world. And how many, I mean, holy people that have power, that are holding the world up? How many holy people, shamans and stuff, are in South America and in Africa? How many of them in India and Indochina, where all of these abuses are taking place? So if you want to kill off the competition, you're going to kill off the traditional competition. Plus, these people have belief systems that are ingrained and thousands of years old. The West is just a new thing. 2,000 since the Roman Empire and the Greeks, you know. So they're not. Most of the Westerners are not tied to their ancient pagan roots. They don't understand the worldview of their shamanic roots, which is incredibly rich. And yet, you have every religion that came up since Rome, Christianity basically, that's demonizing all of that. The New Ages tried to do it, but the New Age is hijacked. So, what does this have to do with the nature of the beast? The nature of the beast is denial. Okay, that's the main operation. So, and acceptance is a misunderstood term because it doesn't mean capitulation. It doesn't mean bending over and being a victim. It means your deeper self, the part of you that knows what's up, embraces everything and says, look, I am the God within me. I am the divine within me, the part that's connected to God, the part that loves, the part, and if you think God doesn't care, just look at your deepest parts of your heart. If your deepest parts of your heart are breaking, so is the heart of God. So, God's in the same position. And it's like, okay, my hands are in the human DNA, says God. Let's put it that way. So let's awaken human DNA. And yet the human DNA is stuck on programs of denial and is not even aware of it. So cognitive dissonance is not just cognitive, it affects the heart and it affects the body. And so addiction comes in because of chronic denial. It's not a better cage that we need, because a better cage is just another form of beefed up denial. At the same time, we are like prisoners, and if we open the door to empowerment too fast and we see too much sunlight, we're going to freak out. Or we're going to commit suicide because the world is too big, it's too scary. Too many emotions are going to come in because the world is energy. It's not just form in what we see politically and socially. It's energy. So too much energy is going to freak us out, and it's going to burn out our circuits because we are addicted to the matrix, whether we like it or not. Heroin addicts do not like being addicted to heroin. They don't. Most cigarette smokers wish they could quit, but the pain is just too much. And the pain of liberation, not the pain of the addiction itself. So they run back to the matrix in ways, and the matrix itself wants them to come back. So it sugarcoats everything. Sugar is an addictive substance. So it gives them more of the fix, and it labels it differently. So if a heroin addict says, oh, I'm just taking my medicine, they feel better about the situation. And that's what the matrix is saying. Oh, that's just medicine. It's not just another poison. And they keep doing that literally with vaccinations and medicinals and this and that. Look at the patterns, I said. And many people are saying all of these things mean something. Every exoteric hint reflects an esoteric reality. And what's the difference? Well, the difference is you have a handle on the esoteric reality. It's where you're actually still free. It's where you actually can make a choice. So if there is that link, you're going to not have the exoteric fixed automatically, but you will have more options, more motive, more means, and more opportunity to engage in the exoteric. It won't be hopeless, and the hope won't be artificial. That's why I promote empowerment. So the nature of the beast now, let's look at a pattern that Ron exhibited. Okay, and this is a pattern that affects all of us. A couple of days ago, a week ago, I don't know, somewhere within the week, Ron said that he was talking to this lady who was in pain, and she sent him an email and a lot of her pain, and please help me and pray for me and all of this. So this person exhibited the shadow of victimization, the victim shadow, because there's a perpetrator shadow. The victim shadow is also a shadow. It's the part that's not in the light of love, the light of healing. It feels isolated, insulated, hopeless, and in despair. Despair is the victim shadow's, thing. It's its label. And denial is the perpetrator shadow's label. Not even denial, hatred. Hatred is the perpetrator's shadow. So if you're full of hatred, you're connected to the perpetrator. Nobody likes that. But if you're full of despair, you're in the shadow, the darkest place, depending on the level of despair, of the victim. So the system of perpetrators wants to promote us, to polarize us into the victim. It also wants to generate hatred because people instinctively know that if, in order to leave the despair, if they generate hatred, they won't feel despair. They'll be too busy hating. But that's a false polarity. See, this is the polarity of destruction, of hopelessness, of giving up. This is the polarity where the shadow has decided that everything has to end. That's what the shadow does. It negates, it says no. Okay? And no is not bad. But when it's all on its own, negating everything else, then it is bad. I mean, no exists for a reason. Manifestation, when you had, like you said, the male and female divine polarities, are we one? No, they said no, we're not one, we're two. So in order to have a different affirmation than the one you had before, you need negation to step in and create that apparent separation, to create dividing lines. Otherwise, there would be no creation. Duality exists because the word no entered the unity, and and that did it. That established the dividing line. And so, however, if you insulate no from the rest of the context of existence, it becomes hatred because it negates everything. Everything experiences it as hatred, as a perpetrator. But at the same no in the victim is despair because the victim doesn't believe in life anymore. The only thing the victim believes in is negation. It's hopeless. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. This is everything is bad. No, no, no. They're negating themselves. They're contributing to it. So how do we do this? Well, let's look at the patterns again. Let's learn. Let's learn. We can afford to learn. And the point is that until we do learn, things are going to keep going round and round until we can't take it anymore. But we are learning. This is why there is no world destruction, because we have learned so much that the next time around, success is guaranteed, actually, you know, because so much has been learned, but we're not going to wait for the next time around because new factors can come in and there's going to be more suffering, you know. But I'm saying that if some people have given up completely, if you're at death's door and whatever, and do not despair. Do not despair because hope is real. Hope means that existence is never giving up. People may give up, everything may give up. God is never giving up. Okay? Whatever you might say about God, that's the whatever. That's the ultimate truth because it's worth it. Now, what I want to say about the nature of the beast is the following. You have somebody who's in despair, they contact you and pour their heart out. You are resonating with them. Empathy is actually the channel of their despair coming into you. You're taking their despair. So when Ron heard this message, he was in despair, for a while and made some videos that were based on a sort of resonance of despair, trying to think around despair. You cannot think around despair. That's why there's cognitive dissonance. It's it's a thought in itself. Despair is a conclusion. You can't think around conclusions. Hatred is a conclusion. You cannot convince hatred to change because it's an existing conclusion. It doesn't change. It's almost like a god in unto itself. So if despair is in there, what do we do? Well, our instinct is to pass it along, to say, I'm feeling this in a way that vibrates physically through our voice or our actions and affects other things that are perceiving it. And these other things, people, will instinctively resist it and criticize us and say, look what you're doing, you're hurting me. No, they're not hurting you. What's going on is that the despair is being passed on. It's being vented from them, and they'll feel a little better later on because it's like removing toxins. But where do the toxins go? Off to the next field. And so people, and this is not wrong unless the person who's venting and doing it is actually wanting to get rid of it and have somebody else deal with it. Because if everybody passes the buck, then it's just going to cycle round and round. And it's going to harvest us as it does, because when we don't engage, we deny ourselves. We deny our abilities of engagement. We say, I can't do it, which is a falsehood. I can do it. I may not know how, but there is something deep inside me that says I can. However, when you have compassion for yourself, see, that's the thing with empathy. Empathy, when in an extreme, you forget yourself. And that's what the other person said about selfishness. It's like, look, man, you can't love anybody unless it comes from you and is directed to you as well. If you don't participate in the love that you are, then you can't love anybody. It's a lie. you know Maybe there's empathy, but the empathy is just a passive resonance to somebody's state of being, an identity with them, a giving up on your own identity. That's why giving up the ego, a lot of manipulators say it because you give it up so they resonate into you, and then you're an extension of them, and they can manipulate you. Or people who are selfish and egotistical, even with a false identity, are most likely resisting that kind of possession. Maybe they're extremely sensitive and don't want to be influenced, like they don't want to be told what to do. Many sensitive people do not want to be told what to do because it affects them adversely, even that. And I'm saying there is empowerment. You can stand up by affirming your stance because you are not a passive victim of your own empathy. That's terrible, because empathy is a beautiful thing. So if you empathize, don't forget to empathize with yourself before, the deepest parts of yourself, the parts that have the principles of always striving for freedom, the principles of always, believing your own truth, the principles of loving yourself, of honoring or at least respecting yourself. All of these principles of integrity, once they're compromised in the name of empathy, that means something's wrong. So even a little bit. So if you start promoting despair along with thought forms that say it is hopeless, it's going to, well, we don't know that. Either way, we don't know that. And if you resonate that, then it puts people who are already weak in the position of believing it. And then that's why they terrorize us. It's like a virus. At the same time, I cannot criticize it because we need to engage with despair. We cannot heal or even touch the perpetrator until we engage with our own victimization. I am not speaking of healing all the victims out there. I'm speaking of being able to address the sense of victimization in ourselves without acting out victimhood into the objective world, without expressing that we're victims, without, feeling the need to say, I'm a victim, help me, you know, because we are supplying the resources of love and everything for ourselves. This is not selfishness again. This is not a new age term. This is a form of esoteric common sense, or common sense in general, or natural sense. If you can't stand up on your own 2 feet, you can't help anybody. When all of the oxygen falls on the plane, the first person that breathes the oxygen is you, because then you're going to pass out and you won't be able to help anybody. So, and the thing is, the last bastion of the takeover is our own being. And this is where we start the engagement of overcoming the rest. If we don't start there, so we need to figure out where we may be sabotaging ourselves in this very complex dynamic of dealing with what weakens us. And the fact is that if you can handle a certain level of dissonance, and usually it comes in every day, all you have to do is look around you. You're going to feel like crap. However, you can control that. You can say, okay, I can only feel this much right now. And my empathy then can filter the rest out by turning in on myself and being selfish. Yes, being selfish. Guilt tripping your selfishness is not becoming a psychopath. That's what they do. They abuse something, and then if we want to use it in a natural way, we're guilt tripped, so we can't use it at all. They can commit all the crimes they want. We're the criminals. Even if we do it a little bit. You got people on sites, there's psychopaths doing all kinds of crap. As soon as one little person says something, oh, that's ego, everybody falls on them as if they were the biggest sinner in the world. That's because we feel empowered when we pound on somebody who's wrong. Whereas, the people who are really screwing us, we can't touch them. Maybe we can talk from afar and scream. So how do we do this? Well, we can touch them, but first we need to touch ourselves. You say, yes, I admit I'm a victim. I'm being victimized, and that's fine. That's the first step. Let's move to the second step. Where is my victimization? I don't feel it. I'm fine. My life's okay. It sucks. The world sucks, but I'm still going by. Well, you're going to meet somebody like the woman on the email. If you exhibit compassion, if you talk the truth is going to get you a revelation, a tribulative revelation, a revelation of the pain and suffering of others. And this is already happening all over the internet, so there's no need to really go anywhere or do anything. So feel that and feel the dissonance. The dissonance is what's trying to get you out of it. If you want to end the dissonance, stop trying to get out of it and wallow in it, but don't sink. Because before you do that, you need to have a strong sense of self and a sense of principles and a sense of knowing that you are engaged in the sacred process of choosing love, even in the midst of despair. And so the despair can be consumed. Affirm even in the face of negation so you can reclaim the no for yourself. So you can say no to them in an empowered manner instead of just trying to say yes and yes and yes while their no is pounding you. So reclaiming the no is reclaiming, transforming the despair, which is also the nature of the beast, transforming this despair wherever it's coming from and regulating the amount of pain that you feel in the world and standing up and knowing that the pain is not going to kill you. It feels like crap. And I'm not, sugarcoating it. I'm not sidelining it. It feels really, really bad. You can't even verbalize how bad it feels. It's like, but at the same time, objectively, you are not threatened. The worst is not happening to you. It is in your head, it's in your heart, it's in your being. There is no physical reflection of it. And that's the only way you can heal until you become so empowered that you can engage the physical reflection. If you try to engage the physical reflection before a certain level of internal empowerment, and I don't mean doing dodging bullets and stuff, I mean a certain level of being able to take the pain and transform it into love, you know, as you stand and inspire people even as they're in pain. They'll all be comforted. This doesn't take a strong metaphysical whatever. Anybody can move into a room of people in despair and comfort them by their presence if they are empowered, which is very difficult these days because we are being attacked. However, that can happen. If you empower a group of people, they will be inspired and they will support you. They will vote for you. This is what the leaders want. They want us to vote for them, to endorse them. Who's the right savior of all the factions out there? They cannot do away with us, only individually, but they cannot do the full scale insanity or big changes in any way that's different than how it happened in the past, like empires and stuff like that. But they want to do chipping, they want to do mutations, they want to do things nobody in the past has ever done. They want to do Agenda 21. That's never happened. So these new things will not be able to be overtly put in place unless humanity votes for it from the inside, whether they feel they have no choice or whatever. They're going to be conned. This is the harvesting zone. We're being harvested and destabilized in order to force our vote, to cry uncle. And we don't have to if some of us individually, and it doesn't take a majority because this is contagious. So before it is contagious. I mean, inspiration is contagious. You wouldn't be popular in your videos if it wasn't. Even when you're venting, see, that's the good thing. You have so many days of upliftment that people will listen even when you're venting. Some of them, however, are turning themselves off, saying, oh, Ron has had a bad day, so I'm just going to shut my emotions out because I can't function like this. So we learn to regulate how much despair can we take. And if we can take a little bit and even heal a sample of it, because you can tell that you've healed it afterwards, because you're not just upliftment, you see a change in your life. You have a daughter or a granddaughter or whatever that comes to you and gives you hope, with something they do because you've taken a block of despair from somebody and even skimmed off a tiny homeopathic dose and healed it by the hope you've had, even if you had to vent the rest. So you affirm that because every time somebody comes into your life and gives you despair and you say the world has ended, well, stand back and pay attention because somebody else might come into your life and give you a sweater. Show an act of kindness. There you go. And that's a hard sweater to knit. I know the pattern, but an act of kindness. And so the world isn't going to hell in a handbasket if you have these things. You are wearing love on your shoulders and on your back right now, and it's keeping you warm. That's a symbol, you know. And that's because you have actually, in your ways, unconsciously maybe transformed an ounce of despair, a tiny bit. So you know how to do it. It's just that when you're consciously choosing to say, okay, the person that sent me that email that's either angry or whatever is reflecting a shadow on me, and I'm not going to vent it, give myself a little time to hold it. And I'm not going to jump to conclusions when I do vent it, because what you really want to do, the honest thing, is to scream, emote. Coming to conclusions about the emotion is arbitrary. The emotional, it is, because feeling like crap doesn't mean the world is going to end. You know, your perception alters, and even though the world is 90% crap, there is that 10%, and things can move the other way because of that. We always think it's got to be a majority. Well, all majorities begin with a 10%. If you have 10% of 0.1%, that's going to heal the 1%, 0.1. But if you have zero point 0.1, it's a 10% of another something, and then it grows and grows from there. It's a growth process. That's why they said, even if you have a tiny minimum, and even if you have less than that minimum, it's going to lead to more and more and more, because we are designed for this, and it's working through time. And all of those people who are suffering will, when all is said and done, then you look back and say, oh, okay, now I get it, because everything's cool. But at this point, it's very natural, because despair, by its very definition, excuse me, is going to make you say no. No to the world, no to your life, no to hope, all of these things. You're engaged in despair. You're not being technically objective. You're not being truthful, even, because you can't. You're only being honest with yourself. But the conclusions are programs. Somebody, you see the world is full of suffering. It sucks. It needs to heal. And there's a good, if it's not healed, then it's going to die. But it doesn't mean that it can't heal and that it won't die, or that there's no hope, because that's the whole thing that I believe the rabbis said. When they say God works in mysterious ways, you can't see it. You can't see what's going on, and it's a process, because from another perspective, you have all these so-called ETs or gods or whatever that are looking at a tiny earth that's not even a speck of an atom in the scope of the universe, you know, and all of this is going on there, or a tiny slice of time. 2,000 years is not even a split second in the sense of cosmic time where the gods dwell. So how much compassion does anybody feel for their skin cell, that gets scraped off and dies? It's like that. If we're the cells in the body of God or something like that, then how much of a distance is there between us and that? And maybe we are evolving to heal that distance. Just like maybe immortality, the key to immortality or life extension is coming into true relationship with our own selves, in the same way that we want God to come into true relationship with us. All of these things are possibilities and probabilities. That's why these idiots cannot be immortal, because they don't understand any of this. The thing is, it wouldn't be worth it to live 5 minutes longer if you're going to do it the way they want to do it, with their tortured Frankenstein zones. So the nature of the beast is twofold: victim and perpetrator. And the victim is despair. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. They want us to be the victim, so with despair, so they can be the perpetrator. Right now, if we, however, heal victimization, then they can't be the perpetrator anymore. If we heal it to any extent, they can't perpetrate as much as they want to. It's a matter of degree. It's not an absolute, okay, suffering still going on, that means it's a failure. No, there are degrees and the matrix is concealing them, but you can see them everywhere. Again, it's in all the quote unquote stupid new age. Oh, look at the smile of a little child and the laughter of the barking of a puppy and the this and the that. There are still rainbows in the world. Yeah, and you can use that to escape and close your eyes, or you can use that as an affirmation that, look, the frequency of contact with these zones may be increasing a little bit, which means that despair is actually being cycled and digested. Not enough? Well, if I choose to engage, then I can learn how to do it more. So when you do feel in despair because of pain you've witnessed, more than your own pain, but pain you've witnessed, or pain you're experiencing because of a memory or some other reason that's not overtly physically violent or a danger to your health overtly, then that's an opportunity. That's when you say thank you, because as bad as it can feel, remember the love that you are. Another cliche. Okay, but remember that at one point in your life, and if you don't remember, then wait for the next uplifting moment. Wait for the next uplifting moment and say, okay, now that's my opportunity. I'm going to remember this. I'm going to make a choice to remember this, because these uplifting moments are worthless. It's like preaching to the choir. They're worthless in isolation. They're actually, however, what you put in your little piggy bank for the rainy day. When the rainy day comes, then you pull out your coins of upliftment and you cash them in. So you remember what upliftment is and know that well, how could I have been so hopeful yesterday? And now today it's all different. What's going on? So bring the hope into the despair. Exactly. Now, what happens if you take the down and the up and combine them? You reach the middle. You reach the balance point. You have a canceling of the waveforms. So if you think that the peace and the upliftment is artificial, it may be under the circumstances, but so is the despair. So if you put them together, you reach the medium, and then you reach a point of empowerment. If you learn to do that, love, then you can reset. Resetting means that, okay, I've seen the despair for what it is. It's an energy, it's a negation. Something is saying no. And I'm absorbing it because I'm loving not the negation itself, which is not, it's just an abstraction. I'm loving what is being negated in myself, because you're resonating to somebody who hurts, you identify with them, you're actually connected with them, you're affirming that connection, and you're feeling it's not their pain anymore. It's your pain now. You've owned it. So now you can actually say, I am loving myself. I am giving myself the benefit of the doubt. I want to live. I love life. I don't care how life is presenting. My love for life is unconditional. Life comes first, but the only way life can come first if is love for it. It's if love for life needs to come first. You need to affirm love for life. And life is not the form that is confronting you. Life is how you know it is meaningful. That's life. Life isn't survival. We know that. Life is a meaningful existence, a meaningful state of being that's open ended, progressive, free. It encompasses all of it. And so I want life, even in the middle of the darkness of despair. And then I will begin to see glimmers of a little lamp that penetrates that darkness. And it's not the new age artificial, oh, shine the light, shine the light. No, you don't shine the light. You have to become it. And in order to become it, you need to tap into the fuel of darkness. The Sufis have a wonderful analogy, and it's in Islam as well, that they say the angels are the light, the flame is the jinn with the heat and the smoke, and the lamp with the oil and the clay is the human. All three have to be together for harmony to exist, but they exist in the physical, which is the human. The human holds the angel and the jinn, which is basically a living energy body dynamic. It's the key to magic. That's why people try to possess and summon jinn. The jinn is actually a human component if you're realized and actualized. So Aladdin's lamp is Aladdin rubbing himself and his higher self coming out, but not just the angelic high in heaven self, but the jinn, the energetic, the engaged, the heat. I mean, you shine a light, and the light's not going to help you in the dead of winter. It'll let you see that you're freezing to death. But heat is what you need. So when you engage with this negativity, so to speak, when you actually shine the light on it and ground into your body, then you start generating the heat in between. In the beginning, it's tribulation, which means friction, and friction generates heat. This is also part of European paganism, where you have runes that say that when you rub, there's one rune, it's called the rune of fate, and you rub two sticks together. It's the rune of need. You generate heat because you need it, and it hurts, and it's under terrible conditions. But you rub those sticks together, and through engaging with what says no, you're actually able to reclaim the no and negate it by healing what hurts without trying to vent. Resist the temptation to just go and express it out, to shoot it out to other people. Hold it in for a little while and see how much you can sustain. And even if it doesn't change it much, sometimes the change comes later. Just the experience that you're actually supporting yourself in the depths of despair is the experience of God touching you. It's one and the same experience. It's because then you don't see God outside of yourself. So God can actually come in and say, here I am, and I've been here all the time. But we need to do it this way, or manifestation is just going to be another cage, a better cage where you rats are going to be able to hold off dissonance for a little longer. But you're all going to get pissed off and seek out the serpent to get the hell out of there. And then once you're out, you get pissed off and you want to fuck another cage. And then they give you another cage, and then you get pissed off, and it's round and round. It's time to break that cycle. So to break that cycle, we need to engage in a manner based on experience. And we all have it, karmically speaking. We just need to remember it by engaging now in as small doses as we can. Those people who are living lives that are comfortable, that are escapists or new agers or believe in positive thinking, I implore you, you have the greatest potential to actually start engaging in negative stuff on your own terms and increase the negativity. Those people who are ultra compassionate and are not as much in denial are going to feel overwhelmed. I implore you, let yourself filter out 90% of that at first. Let yourself say, okay, I'm on the track of actually making a difference. So let me just take this 10%. And please, God, just give me 10% of all of this crap. And I promise I am going to engage and love it and whatever. And then you can increase. This is an act of engaging and making that choice and following through and being open to the patterns and everything. You will be on the road to empowerment because you will be making a difference. And once you start making a difference in one thing, then your mind is going to engage in making a difference mentality instead of despair mentality. That's what we need. And then your discernment will open up more because you will be standing up and saying, I am part of creation, which means I am creative, which means I make a difference because everything changes. Everything makes a difference. That's the whole point of manifestation. For everything that exists to make a difference, ideally benefiting everything else and enhancing the general level of life. And so once we get into that mode, we start waking up our own DNA more and more. I don't know if this is understandable, how it's going to go, because we have so many embedded reflexes against engaging with what's uncomfortable, which is not just cognitive thinking. It's not cognitive, it's emotional dissonance. And we can basically say, okay, cognitive dissonance, something like being mindful, that doesn't have to bother us, because it's cognitive. Who cares? What matters is we engage with emotional dissonance, because emotional dissonance is the substantial energetic part of us that hurts, and healing that will give us abilities to make a difference in the physical. The heat and smoke of the flame is the bridge between the angelic light and the animal nature of the human being. And this is what I am encouraging now. I hope it makes sense. We are reaching 1044 and 544 where I am. The computer is saying that even now it's 1044. So I'm going to close now because hopefully this whole vibration will be grounded and as useful to you as it has been to me. Thank you.
Aristo, it was inspirational, and I'll remember that line. That'll be the opening sentence. The nature of the beast is denial. Thank you for sharing that, and I hope people consider what that means. Thank you.
Thank you.